And now give the floor to the distinguished representative of Sri Lanka.
Mr. President, Sri Lanka thanks you for convening this meeting on the midterm comprehensive review of the implementation of the objectives of the International Decade for Action on Water for Sustainable Development. Mr. President, Sri Lanka associates itself also with the statement made by the Group of 77 and China on water, a commodity without which life is not sustainable. We, fortunately, Mr. Chairman, is blessed with an abundance of water sources. It has 103 rivers, which flows over a total distance of 4,560 kilometers. River basins cover 90% of Sri Lanka, with over 14,000 ancient human man-made reservoirs, with a cascade system including networks of irrigation canals located in the dry zones of Sri Lanka. Ancient Sri Lanka was blessed with a dense irrigation facility created by successive kings at a very high technical level. The administrative architecture, Mr. President, consists of about 41 institutions supported by a legal framework of 52 statutes that manage and regulate the water sector requirements of Sri Lanka. Public administrative water allocation is practiced in Sri Lanka where national agencies mutually decide what amount of water is needed to meet the demands and allocate and distribute water within the different uses. The responsibility of water allocation is vested upon the national institutions historically or by legislation. Mr. President, the water resources of my country are adequate for its estimated peak population. However, variabilities over space and time, including in the two seasonal patterns of annual rainfall, have caused uneven water availability within the country. Now, this reminds us of the importance of water security, even in countries such as Sri Lanka. This simply means access to water to sustain our lives and our livelihoods, and also the absence of water-related dangers, be it man-made or natural. Mr. President, the aspect of water security is closely connected to the very idea of a human right to water, finding its source from the human rights including the right to life, a right to a good standard of living, inclusive of housing and food, and the right to the highest attainable standards of health. We are now faced with the reality that for the global population, using basic drinking water services has increased by 9% between the years of 2000 and 2020. You will appreciate that water has its outstanding political significance nationally, regionally, and internationally, and can give rise to conflict over what is sometimes termed and referred to before as blue gold. Mr. President, one way to approach water security is by means of recognizing the right that grants all individuals a legal claim to access water to realize basic human rights. I am deeply conscious of the fact that numerous questions remain unanswered and that the right itself is rather new in international law. Now, however, we must remind ourselves that it has been gradually developing. In 1977, the Action Plan on the UN Water Conference in Mar del Plata claimed for the first time that access to water should be a right as part of our basic requirements. In 1989, the Convention on the Rights of the Child provides a measure being taken to clean water. In 2002, the Committee on Economic and Social and Cultural Rights spoke of the right to water in its General Comment number 15. At the turn of the century, we member states committed ourselves to the Millennium Development Goals, in which goal number 7C was that by 2015, the proportion of the population without sustainable access to water and basic sanitation would be halved. We have made progress in this regard, while of course not meeting the goal. 15 years later, Excellencies, the Assembly again proclaimed the Sustainable Development Goals, in which Goal 6 demanded the availability and sustainable management of water and sanitation for all. However, regrettably, notwithstanding demonstrations of support, member states have been reluctant to accept the right to water as part of customary international law. Mr. President, the indicators are that most states are willing to give such greater access to water as a matter of public policy. Mr. President, the United Nations in 2017 highlighted the security risks of water, stress as a result of water scarcity, drought, desertification, and land degradation. It may be pertinent to make a brief reference to disaster response law to say that although there is not a direct reference to water in the Mohan guidelines for humanitarian assistance in complex emergencies, it provides that where a government is unable to provide help to sustain disaster relief, the international community has an obligation to provide such assistance in terms of the principles of international law. Excellencies, the human right to water can be a success story of the international community. We have reason for optimism, despite the ostensible gloom that fills our environment. Establishment of legally binding norms simply will not provide a complete answer to the issues we have. Establishing a human right to water will not end thirst, will not end a water conflict. We need, therefore, to urgently move to the implementation mode. We must also reach the realization that this life-supporting commodity is a global common. Finally, it is our hope that this water conference will be an enabler to create this paradigm shift. The importance of water has been beautifully put when it was said that thousands have lived without love, not one without water. We must, it says, stop the clock of drip, drop. We must appreciate that the power of water can also be an entrapment, because water will run until all of it is gone. Thank you, Mr. President.
Okay, I thank the distinguished representative of Sri Lanka.